Shalom. I'm studying the scriptures this morning. I'm in the book of Jasher, which I should be done by now, but life happens. It is, and I just came across something that was really interesting. Now, what I will say is that I know a lot of people. Well, I shouldn't say I know a lot of people because I don't know a lot of people. But I know that there are some people of Jasher who don't believe in the book of Jasher, whatever. I know that there's a lot of hidden texts that, things that have been taken out of the scriptures and hidden from us so that we would have access to the information and we would have knowledge. So I am thankful that I have been open to reading Jasher and Enoch or Enoch because I feel like they are opening my understanding in terms of what's missing from the scriptures, that's been hidden, what's been taken out. There are other scriptures in the Bible, in the King James Version or whatever, that refers to the book of Jasher or Jasher. People say Jasher. But the book of Jasher, there are a few references, to the book of Jasher in the Bible. And I can't ignore that. Some people will say, well, that was thrown in there by whoever, the enemy, like they call them Edomites, but I have a whole different understanding of who, when we say Edomites, who we're referring to. Thanks to my sister on Open Diary who broke it down, and based on scripture from the book of Enoch, which tells us where we get that pale colored flesh. So a couple things I discovered. Yesterday I was doing a Shabbat study with my dad, and we saw, and these are just observations, I'm not trying to teach you anything like that. These are just things that I noticed, and it's like eye-opening, like, oh my gosh. I was told a few years ago that Europe was all black at one point, and I was like, where's the proof of that? Like, I'm one of those people. I need to see it written down. I need to be able to read it in order to validate it. I don't just take people's word of mouth. I just don't take word of mouth and just believe people. Like, I just don't. I can't. I never could do that. I have to see it. I need proof. And I found it. I found proof yesterday when we were reading in Jasher chapter 10. All the people that want to discredit this book, it's got a lot of things that it's proving in there. But so disprove it at your own risk, or discredit it at your own risk, and say whatever evil things things you want to say against the book. But meanwhile, you're making claims and statements with nothing to, like, where's the backup? Where's the proof? Because the person that told me that didn't prove it to me, didn't show me in the scriptures or anything, just didn't. And I was just kind of told to go find it for myself. But I was also told, don't read the book of Jasher or Enoch because they are evil books or whatever, agnostic books, whatever. So when I finally am reading the book of Jasher, I'm trying to bring it to it, and I'm in like the chapter 60 now. But when I finally decided to go ahead and read it, I'm finding those answers excuse me, that I was looking for. So the answers to the question, or the answers like the proof or whatever of certain things that were being claimed to me without proof. It doesn't work. All right, so in chapter 10, I believe that's where my dad and I were yesterday. Chapter 10 in Jasher. So we're mapping out the bloodline, like doing a family tree from Adam to, I guess, to Yahweh Shai. Who knows how far we're gonna go with this? But it's been fun doing it. It's also been a little bit like we've had some tense moments, mostly because of me. Tense moments, not like intense, like, you know, because that is my dad, but just moments where it's like, no, without going into all that. Yesterday was one of those kind of sessions where it was just like, well, you know, couldn't see everything eye to eye, and that's okay. I have to be okay with that, and vice versa. But we saw chapter 10, in chapter 10, where it tells where Japheth, or people call him Japheth, but where Japheth, where he went after the tower was destroyed by the Most High, and the languages were confused, the tongues were confused, and they went north, right? In the book of Genesis, in the Table of Nations, in chapter, I believe it's Genesis chapter 10 as well, or Genesis 10, it says that, I just read it yesterday, and I don't have my King James with me right now. No, I don't. And it says that they, it talks about Japheth and his sons, and it says that by these were Gentiles, or were the isles inhabited, whatever, but it doesn't tell you where they went. Clever. Chapter 10 in the book of Jasher tells you that they went north. And it gives their names, the names of the sons or whatever, so you can find their lands, like Thyrak. You can see Thrace. He went there. Like, it's like you can see where they went. Like Javan, or you can see who was like went to the land of what became Macedonia, which and that makes sense because the Javanese become the Grecians. Like the Thracians too were some, I guess they were all like in that same area. But then it just went on to talk about Tubal and Meshach and how they went, where they went and how they named their lands after them. And I remember doing a study years ago, before I found out who we are as a people, before I was told who we are as a people. I was doing this study for myself, coming out of a divorce, and I was doing this study for myself. And it was a really wintry day. It was snowing like crazy on this day, and I used to train people. I was a personal trainer, and I couldn't go out to go train, and so I was in the scriptures all day. I was reading the book of Ezekiel, and I just got so caught up in the names of the people. And if I remember correctly, somewhere in the scriptures, the reason I got so fascinated because it mentioned terrorists. And so I was like, thinking about how you can find out where these people are. And at the time, like I said, I didn't know who we were as a people. And I was pro-government, pro-military at the time. Well, not, pro-military as long as my family members weren't involved in it. Or like the politicians, right? But I was thinking, we can find the terrorist organizations and go in and destroy them or whatever. by using the Bible, because the Bible mentioned that these people were terrorists in the book of Ezekiel. Trying to think if it was another translation. I don't remember if it was King James that I was reading at the time or a different translation. But anywho, I got fascinated with trying to find. I got into trying to find out who ancient people were, who people were before, who the ancient people are today. Their names, their names today. What were their names back in biblical days? Trying to find those people. And so if people in Pakistan or whatever are the Persians or whatever, then and I'm not saying that this is the case. This is just an example. If the people of Pakistan are the modern day Persians from back in the Bible, in biblical days, the writing of the history, then it would be, you could find out who's who. That was my whole point. Who's who? What are the ancient names? And it wasn't until, I realized names had been changed, but it wasn't until after I was taught who we are as a people, shown through scripture, because again, I don't believe anything word of mouth. Not anymore. I did that for 40 some odd years, believing everything that was thrown at me from people's mouths, and realizing that stuff was a lie. So now I question everything, and you got to be able to prove it, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So this person told me years ago, or a couple years ago, I can't say years ago, it's a few years ago, that Europe at one point was all black, and didn't give me any proof. I'm supposed to just believe you? Kind of nonsense is that? Every teacher knows that they have to prove something. You can't just say it. You got to prove it. You back it up. Don't just throw something out there that you heard. You should have proof. And if you don't have proof, you shouldn't be saying it. Common sense. Common sense, really. I told you the sky is falling, don't look up. But the sky is falling. And you just believed me and went running in the house to an underground shelter or whatever, and stayed there while everybody else is up here just living their life, including the person that told you that the sky is falling. What kind of sense does that make? You can't just, you have to investigate. And if you're going to make claims and statements, you have to back it up so that people, that makes you more believable. Why would I believe you just because you said? We gotta do the research for ourselves. We have to look into it for ourselves. And if you're going to share something, you should have evidence. So I found the evidence that they were black, that Europe was populated. Europe, Russia. So Meshach and Tubal had done a study, like I was saying, back before I knew who we were as a people.